And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about running back J.K. Dobbins as he's been linked to the Washington Commanders. We're going to be talking about if this is a signing that the Washington Commanders should make and if this is a good fit. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jayden Daniels is going to be hitting Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And so we are looking at should the Washington Commanders sign J.K. Dobbins. And so this comes from an ESPN article, and it is under best NFL team fits for remaining free agents and also to trade candidates as well. And so Matt Bowen writes this, and he links J.K. Dobbins to the Washington Commanders. He feels like that this is a good fit. And so this is exactly what is said here. And so I'm going to be paraphrasing this. But one of the things that he points out is that, yes, he missed 4 games with a MCL sprain last season, but he had a career high in rushing yards with 905 yards. He also tied a career high in rushing touchdowns with 9. And then at the bottom here, talking about how he would work in with the Washington offense, you could see Dobbins, providing competition for Brian Robinson Jr. as the early down runner. Dobbins can run between the tackles and has the juice to create big plays on the ground. He took 27 carries for 10 or more yards last season. All right, so should the Washington Commanders go out here and sign J.K. Dobbins? And so I think that if you're putting J.K. Dobbins on the roster, it would have to be, I think, for a 1-year rental. I'm not really excited to put him on there for multiple years. And I just think that when you look at the numbers for J.K. Dobbins, when he's healthy, he has been a very productive back. I mean, when you go back and you look at what he did his rookie season with Baltimore, he played 15 games. He had 134 carries. He had 805 yards, 6 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns. His longest run was 72. He also had 2 fumbles there in his rookie season. But after that, I mean, he's been pretty good with the ball security for the most part. But this is kind of where it really gets questionable, because after that rookie season, 2021, he missed. 2022, he came back. He had 8 games played, 92 carries, 520 yards, 5.7 average, and 2 touchdowns there. 2023, just 1 game played, had 8 carries, 22 yards, and a touchdown there. And then, after that, this is where you see that he came over to the Rams in 2024, and he had the season that he had. He did get injured, missed the 4 games. And so I just think that, the injury concerns are something that I think I would really wonder about with J.K. Dobbins coming over, because J.K. Dobbins really, I felt like coming out of college, out of Ohio State, this is a guy that really, I think, had a lot of carries coming out of Ohio State. And I think that you maybe start to see that when he got to the NFL here. And so, he definitely is an explosive player. He can definitely get the chunk plays and stuff like that. Not sure if he has the speed to go the distance. I think I've saw several times where he has been, caught from behind. But I like the fact that he can be, a guy that can get you chunk plays and stuff like that. And I think more importantly, I don't know if you necessarily have him as the every down type of starter, but he's a great change and pace type of back. And I think that if you do bring him over, I think that he probably would compete for a lot of the reps that Austin Eckler would have. And so, I think he would get a lot of reps that way. Austin Eckler, maybe you just have him geared for the passing downs and stuff like that. And so I think that with J.K. Dobbins, you do add a little bit more power to the backfield to go along with Brian Robinson Jr. And so I think that certainly, that from that dynamic, it does work. I'm just not sure that the Washington Commanders would want to invest into a player that just really hasn't been healthy, because like I said, even though he had a good season last year, he still missed some critical games with that MCL sprain, right? Because the Chargers were playing well. He got the sprain, and that kind of derailed them a little bit. And so, I think that if Adam Peters were going to roll the dice for a 1-year deal, I'm okay with that. But I think that for the most part, with what we have in the running back room right now, I'm more really into seeing, can we get, Krosky Merritt out there? I think Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is a guy that I feel like he could get some touches right away. I think he's a guy that he comes in and maybe he could do a lot of the stuff that J.K. Dobbins could do for you, right? And he's a guy that, look, you've drafted him. You don't have any injury history on him. And this is a guy that was out of football, so to speak, in a way, because he didn't get a chance to play last season. I mean, he was practicing, but still, I think that, that gives him maybe a little bit more extra juice coming into this season. And so, I'm banking on a guy like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt really coming in and competing with Brian Robinson Jr. for the early downs. I think I would take a chance with him more so than I would go with J.K. Dobbins, to be honest with you. I think that, with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, that's probably going to give us enough juice here. But either way, we know that, look, everybody is going to be looking at the running back room for the Washington Commanders, because with Brian Robinson Jr., yes, he's going to be the lead back here, but he's in a contract year. And so this is going to be it for Brian Robinson Jr. I think he's going to have to show that, look, if he wants to come back with the Washington Commanders and he wants a long-term deal, I think he's going to have to certainly produce, because this last season, 187 carries, 799 yards, 4.3 was his average, which was actually his best of his career so far. And he also had 8 touchdowns, which was a career high there. He also had his longest carry with 40. So that was good to see. And then also, too, he was right there with his career high in fumbles. He had 2. He had 3 the season before. So he's certainly going to have to cut that down. And so we'll see what happens with Brian Robinson Jr. I think that, look, if he's going to be the long-term fit for the Washington Commanders, he's certainly going to have to show out this season. If not, I could see that the Washington Commanders may go a different direction, but I don't think that they necessarily need to go into free agency to go get a running back. I honestly think that the running back that the Washington Commanders should really look for is right here that they got out of the draft. And they also have Chris Rodriguez as well. I'm hoping that he has a better camp this year and he's able to compete to get some more carries too. I think that both of these guys are really hungry, and I think that they could really compete with Brian Robinson Jr. for some early down work this season. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully Kliff Kingsbury does use both of those younger players. And so with that being said, I lastly wanted to jump out here with a bonus and just give you an update on the Washington Commanders. If you have not got a chance to see this, this comes from Coach Verbal of the Patriots, and he is saying that he has a scheduled practice with the Commanders and the Vikings this summer. And so that is, with 2 teams getting revved up for the preseason. And so he was super excited about that. In fact, he says, I think for sure the Washington Commanders will come here and they'll play us. And then we're excited to go to Minnesota. It's a good setup and that they have, and it allows for great work. And so he's talking about the Vikings, but he's also talking about the Washington Commanders, where they're going to be doing a joint practice. And so just to give you a little update here, that the Washington Commanders will be doing a joint practice here with the Patriots over the summer. And then lastly here, just before we jump out of here, what do you guys think about J.K. Dobbins? Should the Washington Commanders go out there and should they pick him up based off what was written here by ESPN? Again, writer feels like that this would be a good fit. You get a guy that had 27 carries for 10 yards or more last season. Would you like to take a chance with J.K. Dobbins, or do you feel like that the Washington Commanders have plenty in-house with what they drafted and running backs that they already have on the roster? And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And look, as we always say, look, go Commanders, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.